room has always been a really deeply personal space because I've always felt that your room is always reflective of who you are at the time and what your tastes are, and what your interests are, and what you care about. I feel like it's kind of a silly metaphor for growing up because you're always changing. Your room's going to change, your decorations are going to change, who you are and the things you like are always going to change, but the underpinnings of who you are and your walls and the core of who you are and your structure is always going to stay the same. And I think that is a silly metaphor, and I think that's why bedrooms are wonderful and intimate and political and deeply personal. When I was in grade 12, my school joined the Canadian Improv Games. That was when I started doing like real improv. I mean like raw, impulsive, funny improv. And my coaches were like the two people who like really broke me of my habit of thinking too much before I went on stage, or like trying to force like my preconceived ideas down my other players' throats. And they put in all this time and they really inspire me. And now that I'm actually coaching that same team 4 or 5 years later, that's like something I really try to like keep in mind, just how much they inspired me and how much I just want to inspire my team. They're so awesome. I really grew into myself when I started doing improv. I kind of went from not, like I said, like I didn't really know who I was, and I liked making people laugh, and I liked kind of having all this energy, and that I was really impulsive and kind of have really poor impulse control. Improv made me grow into myself because it like empowered me, and it made me realize like I can do this at a time where like I needed to know that I could be empowered. Like I needed to know that not only did my coaches and my teammates believed in me, but like I needed to know that I could believe in myself. I'm a very strong believer in the concept of yes and yes and is the first rule of improv, and it's also the first rule of life in my opinion. I love it so much. Yes and means that when an offer is made to you, you must accept the offer and add something to it. So like if you ever say no in an improv scene, it's like whatever offer has been made to you, you shut it down completely. You don't let it go anywhere. You like, it can't progress. I think life is really reflective in improv in the sense of like, you don't ever know what's going to happen next. You are going to be thrown with millions of choices and millions of opportunities, and offers will be made to you. And you can't control what offers are made to you, and you can't control what comes your way, but you can control your response. And you can control whether you're going to make it better, or if you're going to shut it down completely, or if you're going to change it. I really try to employ the philosophy of yes and in every aspect of my life. I really feel like we miss out on such good opportunities because we're afraid to accept the offer, and we're afraid to adapt, and we're afraid to just see what happens if we let the scene progress. A little while ago I did a workshop with, I believe that one was with Randy Dixon, who was just incredible. And he said, improv is about honesty. I completely believe that. I completely believe that the more honest and authentic you are when you're on stage, the better your improv will be. I think there's honesty in not knowing what's going to happen. There's honesty in the mistakes. There's honesty in the fact that you will fail. Oh my gosh, and the failure in improv, it has made me learn to love failure because I learn from failure. And I think it makes for great opportunities when you fail. 3-4 years ago, if you had told me that I would have made some of the best friends of my life, and I would have traveled, and I would have just become like a really great version of myself. If you had told me that, I would not have believed you. And I've got to learn from some of the best improvisers out there, which to me is just, it blows my mind still that I'm learning from these really amazing people that I look up to and who I just think are like just these wealths of knowledge, and they're so smart and so wise about not only improv but life. And I think they're good people, I think they're honest people, and I really respect that. A little while ago, I was doing a workshop with Graham Myers from Second Story Theatre. We're doing a lot of work on like equal play and really trying to like match each other's energies on stage, which is really important. And he had me, one other girl, and 2 guys, and we were just supposed to task. We were just supposed to do an action, and we were supposed to do it equally. We were supposed to match each other's energies and just really try to keep just the playing field very even for all of us. And it wasn't intentional, but pretty much immediately into this exercise, the 2 guys kind of like stepped forward and made the scene more about them rather than us just being equal. And I'll never forget what Graham said. He stopped it immediately, and he just pointed out to us how it was just such a natural occurrence that these 2 guys kind of stepped forward and made it about them. He was like, this is a feminist issue. You need to lift her up. You need to empower her. And I remember just standing up there in front of like 15 people, and I was like I was crying. I remember just crying because it was so amazing to hear somebody who is such a strong voice in the community and also who is a male. I think it's incredible to have allies. We need to be there for each other. And I think that translates to so much further than improv. I think we can employ those strategies in every aspect of our lives. Empowerment is so important. I have always been a feminist. I just think it's so silly that like I only started identifying as a feminist in like the last 5 years or so. I think that's just so silly because it's like I've always cared about these issues. I've always been a feminist, but it's like I was afraid of the word because of like just a straight up lack of education or like negative connotations. I'm a very strong believer in like supporting other women. I read this really interesting article actually a few days ago about Hillary Clinton losing the election. Something that like really resonated with me, and I'm not going to forget anytime soon, was this line that said, as women, we are our own worst enemies. And I completely believe that. I completely believe that like we tear each other down constantly. I think there's a cultural expectation that girls are supposed to hate each other as soon as we feel like intimidated or like scared of another woman, or like we feel like she has something more than I do. Like we're constantly supposed to be in competition of each other. Or the worst one of all is like we're supposed to fight for the affection of men. Fuck that. Honestly, fuck that. Yes, I believe that we are our own worst enemies, but we are also each other's greatest resources. And we need to create a culture where like we empower each other and we're like in this together. I think that there's a world out there that still doesn't love women, and we need to love each other. We need to empower each other, and we need to tell each other that like we are capable of doing whatever we want, and that knowing who you are is exactly who you're supposed to be. I'm recently kind of got started in the stand-up comedy scene, and that's been wild. Oh my god, that has been wild. It's really interesting because it's really changed my perspective on the way that we treat women. I think there are so many funny, talented, amazing women in this city and in every city, honestly. It's been really cool going to improv festivals and meeting other improvisers who are just like, they have their own styles, they have their own culture, and then we get to share that, and it's really fun to jam and to just really like get to know each other. But overwhelmingly, I think all women who perform kind of experience this, where like we are constantly kind of second fiddle to men. We have really incredible men in the communities who are constantly lifting women up and not telling us that like our ideas are inferior or like we're just not funny. I think that's a really, really shitty notion. I think women are fucking hilarious. I think, oh my god, I think like it's so interesting. Now that I'm doing stand-up, and I'm doing rooms all over the city, but I find that the nights that stand-up is the funniest is at Women's Night. I get so many interesting perspectives. Women of color, women, queer women, mothers, grandmothers even, oh my god, like Muslim women. Like, it's so amazing to get all these different, we have transgender women, like just women who just have these amazing experiences and just these amazing stories to tell. Comedy is about truth and finding the absurd in the everyday and in the mundane and just in the silly things that happen in our lives. I'm really into observational humor. I'm really into like kind of storytelling kind of humor. And if I have a message for any woman who is doing any kind of performance art, it's like, just keep hammering away at it. Surround yourself with people who are positive and who are good to you and who will support you and who will support your endeavors and support your ideas, and who will give you the space to really like do whatever you want creatively. I think that's amazing. So this is like a weird time in my life because I moved down here, my dungeon. I moved into my room when I was in grade 12. It reminds me how much I've grown and how much I've changed. And being in your 20s is a weird time. It is. It always will be. Because I feel like we're all so old, but we're all so young. I feel like I have a very strong sense of self. I feel like I found self-love in these years, and I think that's so important. I'm terrified. I'm terrified of what I don't know, of all these opportunities that are kind of always thrown my way. So I really love The Fig Tree by Sylvia Plath. It's a poem she wrote kind of in her earlier writing years. She's standing at the crotch of like this metaphorical fig tree, and every fig like that's standing above her is like all these opportunities that could come her way. She doesn't pick any of the figs, any of the opportunities, and they slowly start to fall and they rot, and she can't have any of them. And I feel like that's very resonant of like where I am right now, because my life is crazy and my life is amazing, and every day I'm presented with like another, well, not every day. Some days are pretty, like some days I just eat mac and cheese. I'm presented with a lot of cool opportunities, just whether it's like through university or through improv or, you know, whatever, at my job even. And it's like, it's scary because I know that there's always going to be more opportunities if I pass up on one. But also, what if there are no more opportunities? What if they slowly start to run out? What if they stop coming my way? I think just kind of the philosophy I try to employ in my life right now is like, just do it. Be selfish. Just do whatever makes you happy. And so if that means like traveling or going to a crazy improv festival or going on dates or not going on dates, or like if you just, oh God, if you have creative projects, do them, because those opportunities aren't around forever. And just do it. Just be as selfish as you can be, and look out for yourself and constantly grow and change and love and embrace the change. It gets better, and it will always get better. And that's huge. Positivity is really important. I am surrounded by people who are constantly loving and supporting me, and who I love and support back. And I feel very, very grateful and very optimistic. It's awesome.